Delon for doing such an incredible job. Please give him a round of applause, our MC. And do you see where I got my tenacity from? My mom, please, a round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mom. And thank you to my husband and children and son-in-law, of course. You know, I'm the kind of person who prefer to show what I'm about instead of just saying it. I believe actions speak better than words. As you stand in this space tonight, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a campaign office that looks like this. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Because, as I said earlier outside, this is about making history. And there are many people who actually are quiet because people have silenced them, have never given them a voice. And guess what? Because of our campaign, you have a voice. For the first time, women will have a voice. For the first time, people who've been silenced and quiet in corners will actually have a chance to bring out ideas and suggestions that they've never actually had a chance to do in the past. You know, as my mom said, I remember actually she was speaking, I reflected on a moment when my dad and I had a conversation. I'm not going to talk too much about him because that's an emotional subject. But when I was a kid, I was a teenager, and I was sitting watching a beauty pageant, and my dad said, "Why do you look so sad?" I said, "I really wanted to enter that contest, but I couldn't." He said to me, "Do you know who is the person who makes the most money in that beauty pageant?" I said, "Yes, the person who wins." He said, "No, that's not how you think as a business person. Do you know who's the person who makes the most money? The person who's the promoter, the person who's the organizer, the person who's signing the queen's check, the queen of the pageant check." I said, "Oh, I never even thought of it like that." He said, "Okay, so I'm going to show you what I mean." So he loaned me $10,000, and he said, "You always talked about hosting a show, so here's $10,000. Use this and host a program, host a pageant." So I hosted the first male pageant in Guyana in the early 90s. And that pageant, when I hosted it, we actually paid the person who won that pageant. It was called Mr. Guyana Fashion. Don't laugh at the name, but that's what it was. And that night, after I finished putting together all my expenses, paying everybody, the amount of money I had, and then the $10,000 to repay my dad, I wasn't planning on paying him any interest because it was for a short space of time. So that night, I took the $10,000 and I put it in an envelope and I gave it to him, and he said, "What is this?" I said, "Is it $10,000 that you loaned me?" He said, "Do you have interest in it?" And I said, "No, we never had a discussion on interest." He said, "Okay, well, when you do business, you have to pay interest. But because I was trying to teach you a lesson to let you understand who's the person who made the most money, I understood that message what he was trying to tell me. I was a teenager, but the message he was trying to really say is that you're in a position to make changes and power when you're at the top there. And each and every one of us, every person who is here tonight is a leader in different capacity. You're probably a parent, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a librarian, you are, in whatever capacity you are, you're a leader. And that's why we have you here as part of this campaign, because we're about inclusion. A lot of times we hear exclusion, but this campaign really fosters on a lot of inclusion. There are so many people. The stage I'm standing on was built by a retired detective who is not a construction person, but who had a vision. When we came here, like Chantel said earlier, this space that you're standing on the floor was just a real, concrete space. The walls were all filled with holes, and I stood in this space and I had a vision. I had a vision of what I wanted the space to look like. And when I told Jay, I said, Jay is in Guyana right now on vacation. I told Jay, I wanted a stage here. He looked at me and he said, "How are we going to bring a stage in this door? Did you see how narrow that door is?" And I said, "Jay, we're going to build the stage in here." And he looked at me and said, "You're a crazy woman." And I said, "I know, I have a vision and we have to see this vision through." And I told him how we're going to put a screen and everything. But Chantel was right also, because when I talked to Chantel, and I tell Chantel, I said, "I have this idea, and I want the top must have a little bit of yellow line and a blue line at the bottom, whatever the detail is." And all she says to me is, And I said, Chantal, do you understand what I'm trying to say? She said, mm-hmm. But when she sends the artwork and the layout, is exactly what is in my head, she brings to life. So this space is of a vision that I had, that I really wanted to be inclusive of everybody in this community. The reason why my husband and I chose this community to live in, because of its diversity. It's a very diverse community, and many times we're excluded because of our accent, because of how we look, because of the choices we made in life, because there's so much exclusion out there. We really wanted to make sure we have a space here and look around at the flags. If you don't see the flag of your country, then blame it on Chantal. It wasn't me. Oh, everybody can sit, by the way, I'm sorry. I apologize. So we wanted, like I said, this space to be a space of inclusion and a space where people can feel at home. And every person that you see here tonight, while this is a campaign office opening, there's a professional, is the person who's here is a professional in some area, or someone who's running for office, or who's actually ran for office, a business owner, or a community leader in some capacity. So make sure tonight, after I'm finished speaking, I want a few of my volunteers to say a few words, but I really want everybody to actually intermingle and get to know the person next to you. Because as a mother and a wife, and as a business owner, it's very important to network and to increase the amount of people you know and understand that in numbers you have strength. For this campaign, yes, it's very unique. This is the first time that a woman would actually be holding this seat, providing it's God's will for me to win. And it's a very much of an uphill battle. When I started with a campaign 2 years ago, when I decided to run, I was thinking of all the things ahead of me and how it would impact my family. Because running for office does impact your family. Because it's a very dirty game, and there have been so many challenges we've been faced with, and it impacts my family, would impact my family greatly, and thankfully so far it hasn't. Because I have a husband who understands what's happening, and one of the most important things is that I usually discuss this with my children. And for me, one of the things I'm big on is making sure that young people are engaged and involved in our campaign. We always want to make sure we engage our young people, because in many cases schools are not really having civic engagement as part of the curriculum. And for this campaign, we want to make sure children are actually part of the campaign so they can put it on their resumes. So when it's time for them to graduate and go out to the real world, they'll actually have something on their resume, because most places will say, what is your job experience? Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure we help them prepare to get into the real world. And when I say prepare, not just coming to this campaign and just working or volunteering, I'm talking about making sure they understand timing, make sure they understand how to manage their finance, because financial wealth is critical and important. But all the pieces of life that would help to make one rounded person is what we're about when we're talking about building. Tonight, the message I really want to leave with you is about building. How do we build? How do we build a community? How do we build togetherness? How do we make wholeness? And how do we have inclusion? The kind of inclusion that makes us feel accepted. We really don't have that. This is one of the reasons I decided to run. Because in this community, there's no inclusion. There's nobody actually asking, like my husband said, what do you feel about things? How do you feel? How does this affect you? Nobody does that. And that's part of the frustration why I decided to run for office. Because there is a need for inclusion. There is a need for equity. There are many parts of our community that are not getting served in a specific way. There's not a lot of love being spread in specific neighborhoods. So it's very important for the leadership who gets into that seat, like myself. I'm hoping that, like I said, if it's God's will, that when I hold that seat, that we actually understand the inclusion and equity part of it is critical, because many of us, and one of the things I want to leave here as well tonight is that many of us, especially from the Caribbean, we have a specific culture. We go to work, we come home, we eat dinner, we go to sleep, wake up the next day, go to work, come home, eat. We have that rotation. Part of that has to be incorporated into civic engagement and also understand what's happening around you. Because if you don't come out and participate, somebody else will make decisions for you. So for me, I did not want somebody else to make decisions for me. But what I understood is that if we don't work in numbers, because if I show up at a community board or the local community precinct, if I show up alone, it's not as impactful as if all of us show up with a specific understanding of a mission. We want to make sure we have inclusion. We want to make sure we have equity. So in a nutshell, tonight I really want to thank you all for coming out. I wanted you to see, and most of you who are some of my volunteers who were here, we intentionally made sure that we kind of kept this a secret while we were putting it together, because we wanted to make it a surprise for everybody to see that the dividends is what you're standing in. Everything that you see here is from you, the people who've actually contributed to this campaign. You are the ones who actually did this. I have the vision, but you're the one who actually empowered me to birth it. And this is what has been birthed out. I don't know again about you, but I've never seen a campaign office that looks like this. And the last thing I'll say is one of the things we'll do start May 1st, we were using this space for community projects, community work. So instead of us, usually a candidate would walk around and say, hi, how are you? My name is Dimple Willabus, I'm running for city council. These are some of the things I'm running on. This is my platform, education, housing, the usual stuff. No, I'm not about the usual stuff. As you can see, there's nothing usual about me. So it's important for the people actually get a chance to speak. Children or youth, we want to hear from you. We don't want to come and tell you what we're going to do for you. We want to hear your voice. We want you to come here and stand at the podium and get a chance to practice your public speaking as well. So this is a community space. Tonight is the beginning of what's to come. So we want you to understand that while you're here tonight, we want you to be able to do the work as well as leaders. Well, you're a parent, whether you're a mother, wife, cousin, whoever you are, you must know at least 10 people in the district, and just tell those people about the campaign to educate them on what we have planned. There's so much information on my website. Most of you, are on my social media or know of me. We want you to spread the word about the change and about the unity that we plan ahead. And I'm very proud and thankful that every one of you who took the time to come out to stand in this moment with me in history. I really want everybody to stand tonight and just say victory.
Victory!
Join me.
Victory!
1, 2, 3.
Victory!
Victory! One more time. 1, 2, 3.
Victory!
All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.